may step down. All right. Let's have the closing arguments for the defense.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'd like to appreciate the time and patience that you have given us during this time period. And it's a privilege for me to come forward to you and have this opportunity just on this case of this kind. First of all, I'd like to remind you that this is a criminal case, so therefore if there's any doubt in your mind whatsoever, then you cannot prove that that we are guilty in this sort of situation. Under the direction of the NSC 68, the United States Security Council called for the action that would provide allies in aid for the execution of the containment policy. So therefore, the intervention given and the diplomatic ties that we had with the South Vietnam was not for the purpose of our own financial or political gains, and that those were done for the defense of South Vietnam from incursion from the North and Ho Chi Minh. In addition, the advancement of the Republic of Vietnam, we supplied this financial aid for the consolidation of democracy in South Vietnam. So therefore, we were helping to set standards in sort of government institutions, so we did not knowingly support a corrupt machine. And also, what was stated in the opening statement, the domino theory was a bona fide ideology that called for intervention in nations such as South Vietnam. Presidents such in Greece and Iran and Guatemala set forth with national policies such as the NSC 68 and the containment policy allowed for U.S. intervention in South Vietnam. And thus, the domino theory was not false propaganda made up by the media just to support our own political and financial gains. And lastly, the overwhelming public dissent of the war in Vietnam, and also the immense amount of military aid that we gave to South Vietnam, such as like armaments, strategy, tactics. We were able to give South Vietnam the proper means to defend themselves from the North. So thus, when we left, they had the capabilities to defend themselves from North Vietnam. I would like to ask you to please carefully deliberate and take into account all statements and evidence provided during this time. Thank you.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today I'm representing the prosecutor team in this case, and I have intended to prove that the United States is at fault to count one, that the United States willfully and knowingly intervened between a civil war between North and South Vietnam. Count two, that it supported a series of corrupt regimes in South Vietnam over 2 decades. Count three, that the domino theory was really a made-up piece of propaganda for the United States intervention in South Vietnam. Count four, by 1973, the United States left South Vietnam to North Vietnam on its own. Let me remind you of the key facts of this case presented in court today. That the United States supported Diem's corrupt regime over 8 years from 1955 to 1963, and it was unsuccessful at installing a democratic party in South Vietnam. The United States lost a number of troops in Vietnam, and as well as South Vietnamese citizens lost their lives. The domino theory was an attempt to keep Southeast Asia enclosed within the United States global economic system. And I would like to read a text from this book. It says that the impact on Japan, America's most important East Asian ally and the richest economic prize in the area, was viewed as potentially disastrous. Even before the fall of China, the United States was pushing for the reintegration of Japan with Southeast Asia, a region that had served as its rice bowl and the breadbasket and an essential source of its raw materials and markets. With China already lost to communism, U.S. officials feared that the loss of Southeast Asia would compel Japan to come to terms with the enemy. The United States must set out to defend a vital segment of the Great Crescent of containment extending from Japan to India. Today, you have also heard from our witnesses that they witnessed horrific actions the United States and its government admitted against the people of Vietnam, which I believe has left no doubt in your mind of the guilt of the defendant. So I ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to prove the verdict guilty.
Thank you. Well, all right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and bailiff, would you please see that the door then is locked? If you need anything, just knock on the door.
What's the matter with you?
I have a reasonable doubt now.
11 to 1. But what about all the other evidence? What about...
Well, you said we could throw out all the other evidence.
Well, what do we do now?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, all right, you handed the results to the bailiff. Bailiff? Count one, that the United States willfully and knowingly aided and abetted for its own financial and political gains in Vietnam, not guilty. Count two, that it supported a corrupt regime in South Vietnam, guilty. Count three, that the domino theory was really a made-up piece of propaganda for U.S. intervention in South Vietnam, not guilty. 4, by 1973, the United States left South Vietnam to North Vietnam on its own. Count 4, not guilty. Thank you. Everyone has different points of view, and one of the biggest things we have to do is respect another person's point of view. That's what our democracy and our freedom is all about. Because if we don't, and if we take away that person's point of view, who's to say we can't take away someone else's point of view? And before you know it, no one has anything to say. And if you don't say it the way the regime wants you to say it, well, then you're just going to have a bullet in your head. And that has happened, hasn't it? Sad to say.